Problem and hypothesis. Problem is considered broader than its hypothesis. Problem has several possible solutions and answers, while hypothesis corresponds to one or some of possible solutions. A research problem is often followed by at least one research hypothesis. Problem statement identifies the problem you hope to solve, and the hypothesis helps to decide on how you will try to solve it. The research problem is a statement about an area of concern, condition to be improved, difficulty to be eliminated, and troubling questions in theory, and it is the need of meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation and results. So, it's a question the research study sets out to answer. Other definitions can be: it is the first step in research process involving identifying a problem to study and formulating a hypothesis. Identification of research problem is difficult, but it's an important phase of entire process of research. The reason may be his or her limited knowledge of research process, unfamiliar with areas in which research is needed and procedures to be followed. The statement of problem, it is a succinct statement of dilemma that the research questions are intended to resolve. This statement reflects elements of literature and should provide clear rationale for the research questions to be followed, and it should be presented in one paragraph and based on the critical analysis of literature. Example can be: what's effective restructuring on career indecision among the college students receiving a career counseling at the career center. This is one type of or one example for the problem statement. We have three types of problems based on their nature. One is descriptive problems, example issues related to studying, and relational problems, that is relationship between the two or more factors is studied. Casual research problems means problems look at cause and effect of between the two variables. So descriptive, relational, and casual research problems. Then the problem statement is defines interrogative testable statement which expresses the relation between two or more variables. The three features of problems are: the problem should be written clearly in the question form, it should be tested by empirical methods, should have relation between two or three variables, and should be tested by data collection. Problems in manifested or arises means when there will be a problem, okay, when we will get a problem. So problem is manifested or arises when there is a clear gap between results, researchers disagree with each other, facts given without explanation. A problem should avoid moral ethical judgments, and it should be of sufficient importance, and problem can be general or specific. Then we have two types of problems. One is solvable problem and another is unsolvable problem. A solvable problem which can be solved with the use of normal capacity, observing the events, and by the empirical methods. It is possible to have suitable hypothesis as a tentative solution to it. This is about solvable problem which can be solved easily. Unsolvable problem, it is unstructured, interest of researcher is not clear, then cannot have a clear-cut idea about the variables which should be studied. The problem itself will be vague in nature, means unclear. It's not very thorough or clear statement what it is asking. And the variables cannot be defined operationally, and relevant data cannot be collected by using various methods. Example, can we make people more optimistic? One statement. Or it is unsolved problem. We cannot decide how we can change or whether result will come or not, because it is completely uncertain. Can human nature be changed? So these are the examples of unsolvable problems, which includes plenty of aspects to be resolved. Coming to hypothesis. Hypothesis is a tentative and testable explanation of relationship between two or more variables. It is an empirically testable proposition about some fact-behavior relationship, and it's usually based on theory and fact, and that states an expected outcome resulting from specific conditions or assumptions. Example, if we take nutritious breakfast, then the performance in the exam will be better. So this is one. And commonly the hypothesis will be in the form of if and then statements. We have 5 types of hypothesis, namely research hypothesis, null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, directional hypothesis, and non-directional hypothesis. Research hypothesis, a statement describing investigation expectations about the pattern of data that may result from a given study. By stating a specific expectations before that the data are collected, the investigator makes commitment about the direction. Example, and direction and also magnitude of the potential relationships based on the study's theoretical framework and related prior studies. Examples can be method A yields better than the B. Then this is only we are saying better yield only. We are not saying how much better they are doing. Okay, very clearly. Then second example can be salary will be increased with more education. Means higher the educational status or levels like PG, then master, then PhDs will increase the salary earning also. So here it shows that both are increasing manner. So one increases, other also increases. That is called, we can say, it has some direction. Null hypothesis. It is also called as zero relationship or no relationship hypothesis. A statement that a study will find no meaningful differences between the groups or conditions under investigation, such that there is no relationship among the variables of interest and that any variation is observed, then the data is the result of chance or random process only. Example of null hypothesis is if a researcher is investigating a new technique to improve skills of children who have difficulty in reading, here the null hypothesis would be predict no difference between the average reading performance of those children who receive the interventions and who don't receive the interventions, because there is no change in these two groups. That is called null hypothesis. Coming to alternative hypothesis, a statement that contradicts the null hypothesis. So in the null hypothesis there is no relation between the two variables, but here we have a meaningful relationship between the two variables. That is a contradictory means. It is a prediction of a significant finding. Example, a significant difference between a sample mean, a correlation that is significantly different from the zero. Generally, it is a scientific prediction of significant results in hypothesis testing. So, alternative hypothesis gives the meaningful differences or relationship between variables under the investigation. Directional hypothesis, a scientific prediction stating A, that an effect will occur, and B, whether the effect will specifically increase or decrease depending on the changes to the independent variable. It is also called directional alternative hypothesis or one-tailed hypothesis. Example, taking alprazolam decreases anxiety and thereby increase relaxed lifestyle. Then other example can be depression will be reduced after taking the treatment, and the wellness of the patient also will be increased. So here the direction is shown clearly whether it is decreasing or increasing. Other example can be increased study hours increases the grades or marks in the examination. So here both variables are increasing. If one increases, we can see the improvement in other variable too. That is called directional hypothesis. Non-directional hypothesis. Here it's a hypothesis that one experimental group will differ from another without specification of expected direction of the difference. It is also called non-directional AH or two-tailed hypothesis. Example, performance of blacks and whites differs in Olympic Games. So we are not saying that which is doing more, which group is doing more. Okay, just we'll say there is a difference between the performance by the blacks and whites. That is called non-directional, where we are not mentioning at all about the direction, whether it is going increasing or decreasing aspect. Then the characteristic of hypothesis can be, it should be specific, testable, clarity, simplicity, relevant to the problem, power to predict, closest to the observable things, relevant to available techniques, clearly testable. It should be related to the existing body of theory and fact, logical unity and comprehensiveness, general in scope, and should be related to available scientific tools and techniques, should be in and it should be in accordance with the other hypotheses of the field. Then formulation of hypothesis. Stating the problem which is going to be solved. Make sure that the hypothesis clearly defines the topic and focus of the topic. Try to write hypothesis as if and then statement form. Define the variables. Like example, students who eat breakfast performs better in the exam. Formulation of hypothesis is creative task, involves the lot of thinking, imagination skills, and when the hypothesis arrived, the survey should be done both extensively and intensively, and abstraction should be drawn. Try to find out the simultaneous or similarities among the abstracted data, making generalizations, and reduce the proposition to form the hypothesis. This means we are coming to an idea that is from general to specific aspects. That is called formulation of hypothesis. Problems in formulation of hypothesis or forming the hypothesis. Absence of knowledge of theoretical framework is a major difficulty in formulating the hypothesis. If researcher lacks knowledge, thorough knowledge regarding that subject, then it's very tough to form the hypothesis based on the scientific research techniques. So this is about the hypothesis. Thank you one and all.